The G502 Hero, a truly classic gaming mouse, but with one devastating flaw that affects all Minecraft players alike. Its complete lack of ability to drag click and double click. Since my last mod video got an unbelievable amount of support from you guys, I decided to up all the standards. No easy shortcuts this time. We had to tear down 2 bloody mice, take out their parts, create our own circuit boards, desolder and replace optical switches, add in a new sensor with custom parts, and do so much more. The complexity and room for failure for this mod was unbelievable. This project took me 22 long, grueling hours to complete, and over $120 of my own money on 3 separate gaming mice. So right now is a perfect time for me to ask you to hit that subscribe button below. It's simple and free to do so. This will allow me to put out more awesome content in the future that is pretty expensive to make. Now, enjoy the rest of the video. Boom, here's the G502 that I just bought on eBay, costing me around $32, not a bad deal. We're gonna crack open this box, see what this mouse has to offer. Spoiler, I think you already know what it has to offer. And we're gonna see what we can do to fix this mouse. Let's go! Time lapse. Time lapse. Okay, first thing to point out, this mouse is really aesthetically pleasing. I'm serious. It is super cool how there's like so many different hotkeys and different buttons. Also, that infinite scroll wheel, oh, that thing is so dope. I can just press one freaking button and the scroll wheel spins like 200 miles an hour. Oh yeah, Trikes.
Yes, sir.
Or Bob, we don't really know what's going behind the scenes, but he actually used this mouse to do the 80,000 CPS scroll click. Please, YouTube algorithm, give me the same luck. So back to the teardown. Taking off the mouse feet was pretty simple, as well as the screws. Standard procedure. However, of all the mice that I've ever tear down and taken apart, this one was genuinely difficult to figure out. I struggled for 20 minutes trying to take off this tub cover. It was such a pain. Finally, I got it off. And now, let's just take a moment to admire this insane engineering. This mouse is so compact. Just from this angle, we can see a total of 10 switches. If you're not familiar with how these mouse mods work, basically what we're going to do is we're going to strip out all of the electronics from this mouse, and we're basically going to put the brains of a bloody A70 or a bloody A90 into this mouse to allow it to drag click. A neat thing that I just noticed, the only thing that is holding the scroll wheel housing down is this cool little sliding plastic bar that is wedged in between, just like those old medieval doors with the sliding metal bars. Other than that, the rest of the teardown is pretty standard, and I'm not going to bore you with the rest of the details. By the way, check out all these parts just from the G502. Now I'll be tearing down both the bloody A70 as well as the bloody A90, and I'll explain later why I need them both. We will harvest the circuit boards as well as the switches. And by the way, if you watched my weight reduction mod video, there's also a weight inside of an A90. So I guess if you want to reduce the weight of your A90, you can take out the metal weight in the back right here. Now, let me quickly explain why we need both of these mice. The bloody A90 has a nice, small, square circuit board. However, the bloody A70 has a large, obnoxious circuit board. The bloody A70 circuit board physically cannot fit inside of the G502, therefore we can't use it. But the A90 circuit board fits just fine inside the G502. However, the reason why we need the bloody A70 circuit board as well is because we want to harvest the special LK switches from it and transfer them over to the A90 circuit board. Don't worry, you'll find out why that's important later. It is evident that this mod is 10,000 times harder than the Death Adder mod, and I'll tell you the main reason why. So, unlike the Death Adder mod, where the switches and scroll wheel coincidentally perfectly aligned with the existing switches, this mouse is completely different. As you can see, the bloody A90 does not match up at all with the G502 casing. The switches are like a whole centimeter off. So what I have to do is I will literally have to desolder the switches from the A90 and solder extension wires to the switches to have them free from the circuit board so that I can move them to any location that I want and have them in the right place. For the next part of this video, please forgive me. It was way too stressful and I couldn't actually get any footage of me removing the LK switches from my bloody A90. But I'll give you a reenactment of the procedure that involves using a heat gun to melt the solder and pull off the switches. But I'll give you a huge disclaimer. I have tons of tools, I've experience with this, I have lots of equipment to desolder things. And guess what? Unsoldering these switches, I destroyed both the LK switches. Both of them completely destroyed. The solder that is used on the bloody A90, that stuff does not melt. I don't know what stuff they use. It must be that it's cheap or something. I have no idea. It does not melt. Normal solder melts like butter, like boom, instantly. This stuff does not melt. Do not try to unsolder these switches. You will most likely destroy them if you do. Can we just get a moment of silence for the 2 dead switches? Okay, enough with that. This is not the end. We still have another bloody mouse to deal with. We have the bloody A70. We can simply take the switches from that mouse and transfer them over to the A90. This time, we must not screw up and destroy the switches. Unsoldering mechanical switches is 10,000 times easier than unsoldering optical switches. I'll tell you why. Mechanical switches are just 2 metal contacts. There's no delicate things inside it, so putting in a little bit extra heat to it shouldn't kill the switch. But optical switches are switches with 2 little bitty laser diodes inside. So if you put tons of heat to that little laser diode, that thing will explode and burn up. That's why it's super hard to remove optical switches. I might sound dumb for this, but after blowing out 2 optical switches, trying out different methods of desoldering, I decided the most optimal way would be the pulverization method. Basically, I use a drill bit, a knife, and a Dremel to chisel out every little bit of the board until I can pulverize it completely and have the switch by itself with all pins intact. This process does not put any heat to the switch and therefore reduces the risk of blowing out the lasers. But sadly, the only way you could possibly do this is if you have another board to sacrifice. We will be sacrificing the entire bloody A70 circuit board just so that we can get this A90 circuit to work. Guess what? It worked. Now I'm going to put the switch into its own circuit board like this, and we're going to solder extension wires to each and every one of the pins of the switch. Time lapse, time lapse, time lapse, time lapse. Boom. Hey, I just got it all done. Now we're going to feed all of the wire tentacles into the proper holes, and we will solder them very carefully, making sure we don't cross any paths. And there you have it. 15 hours of soldering condensed in a 2-minute time span. Awesome. We want this mod to look cool, right? So the LED in the G502 fits inside of a little white cone, as you can see right here. But the bloody A90 LED, of course, does not align at all. So what we'll do is we'll simply cut off the LED, make extension wires, heat shrink them so that they don't touch with each other, and connect. And now we have a movable and extendable LED that can be aligned with the light funnel. Would you believe it? After hours of work, I didn't even test if the thing worked. Let's test it. And let's go. It works. The switches work. The LED works. That's awesome. Now, all we have to do is modify the G502 casing and put in the new sensor. Now, I'm just cutting out all the useless bits of plastic that are just getting away, including all the supports for the mouse, because who needs supports? We're making room for all the new electronics. Look, please don't roast me in the comments, but sadly, we have to use the dog water bloody A90 sensor. So what we're gonna do is we're basically gonna swap the sensors and cut out holes in both mice just like this. I am of course a true professional, and I did not forget to trace out a very beautifully done outline. And now it's time to start cutting! We're gonna use a drill press to remove the bulk of the plastic from the middle of the mouse. But Helix is dumb and gets his finger sliced by the plastic spinning very fast. Don't worry guys, I'm completely fine. It was just a flesh wound. Next time, I just held it with some pliers instead. Now that we got like a big hole cut in, we're gonna use a little coping saw to clean up the edges and make it more square. And then we're gonna spend the next solid 3 hours filing down the hole in order to get the board to fit inside. Just like I promised before, I'm gonna cut out the sensor housing from the bloody A90, and we're gonna hot glue that bad boy right onto the circuit board so that we can have the sensor perfectly aligned and calibrated. And the final step would be to push down the board so that the sensor lays flat on the table like it should with the mouse, and we will tack in the circuit board and cement it fully with hot glue. Yay! It's testing time now. Hopefully we did not waste 18 hours of our life just to find out that it doesn't work. Now, let's test it out and maybe we can draw some things. So far, the tracking is incredible actually. It's not skipping or anything. It's not missing. it's tracking evenly all the way across. Let's try to draw some stuff now. See if the switches work. Let's go! The switches work. That's awesome. If you made it this far already, do exactly what that screen says. Thank you so much. Since everything worked out so well, by the way, we are very lucky that it does, I can now feel comfortable putting the mouse together and gluing the switches in place to have them click. This is going to be kind of challenging and tricky because we got to put the switches in and glue them in the exact right place inside the mouse shell so that the clicks register and the plungers actually hit the switch. Here we go. I just glued in the first switch and then I glued in the second switch. Both are working fine and they click extremely well. Now the final step would be to cover up all of the holes and the exposed circuit board on the bottom of the mouse to make it nice and smooth. The way we'll do this is we will grab this old spare keyboard and we will smash it. We will smash it. No, I'm just kidding. We'll just take off the cover from the back, cut out some plastic, and cut it into the right shapes to fit it beautifully in just like that. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, we gotta put in the LED. So basically, I'm gonna get my little LED extension circuit I made, and we're gonna feed it into the cone and glue it in just like that. For your sanity, I will simply skip over the extra 2 hours of time I spent trying to fit this mouse together. And we can finally test out how well this mouse drag clicks and what CPS we can get on it. Let's get it. Surprisingly, with my experience, this mouse actually drag clicks way better than the Blade 8 bedless. The clicks feel way smoother, I can drag for much longer, and I'm getting like between 40 and 80 CPS on this mouse without a problem. And it just shows how there are so many mice out there that could be top tier drag clicking mice if they had adjustable debounce time in their software. Just imagine if this mouse came with adjustable debounce. The potential is unreal. In fact, I was so impressed by this mouse that I decided to go on Bedless Noob server Bridgerland and find someone to reduce with an MLG rush and do some block clutches. Coincidentally, I literally, on complete accident, was able to get into a game with a YouTuber that I actually know. His name is Walt's Discipline. Definitely check him out. He helped me a lot. We recorded some great footage together and we even chatted on Discord. It was fun. To wrap up the video, I would like to give a big thanks to all of you who have stuck around this far already. I put in 40 hours into this project. That's why I haven't been uploading lately. It's been nearly 5 days since I've uploaded at this time. Drop a comment below if you want me to do more mouse mods and which mouse mod I should do next, and I'll be glad to read those over. And I'll see you in the next vid.